I started my very first fix and flip, which I call the haunted flip. That's a real story. I got a whole story behind that. He stays out on the side waiting for someone to come down to the landing because here come the steps. And we hear the heavy boots coming down the steps. The phrase, my heart was in my throat. You feel it in your throat. I mean, I didn't, I'm a fix and flipper. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a shooter.
Hello and welcome to Dream Start Own, the path to own your time. I'm your host, Edgar the Connector, and today we have Alan Foster. Alan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you for having me on.
You're in Savannah, Georgia, is that right?
Actually, I do most of my business in Savannah, Georgia, but I'm physically in Fort Collins, Colorado right now. But I go back and forth between there and Fairfax, Virginia.
Okay, little traveling nomad.
Yeah, actually, kind of. Yeah, I've been to more cities this year than I have in my whole life.
That's great. Hopefully it's for a good reason.
I didn't even know California had a desert until recently.
That's similar to Texas. It's so huge. There's so many different landscapes. It's amazing what the United States has.
Oh yeah, you got it. You got every climate. You got every possible thing you could want to experience temperature wise right here.
Right.
I don't know about now we got subtropics right down in southern Florida.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep. What are you up to these days? You're still fix and flipping, right? Mainly in
Savannah.
Right?
So I do fix and flips in Savannah mostly. I do some buy and hold, but I do them more passively. But I'd use the income from fix and flipping to do buy and holds. But I do them in other cities. I have some in Vegas. I have some in Indianapolis. I have some in Michigan. I have some in Houston, Florida. I do have some buy and holds down in Georgia. But mostly what I do for active income is fixing and flipping. And I'm also a full-time options trader. So when I'm not finding deals which is kind of slow right now. If I'm not finding any deals, I'm actually online, actively trading options.
Nice. Have you been trading options longer or fix and flipping longer?
I've been a fix and flipper since about 2021. I'm sorry, no, correction, 2001. I've been doing it that long. Options trading, I've only been doing for about 7 years.
Okay. How'd you get into options trading?
I met a dude who, I met a guy who did fix and flips, and he said he's also an option trader. And he's like, yeah, that's what I do also for making money. And I said, really? How does that work? And he explained it to me. But then I kind of delved into that a little bit. And matter of fact, I just closed out a trade on IBM, an options contract for $6,500. So not a bad day's work.
Cool. Very, very nice. So you think you've done better on option trading than that?
I'm about equal. I make about as much money options trading as I do fix and flipping. But options trading requires my full attention for 6.5 hours every single day. Where, fixing and flipping, I find the deal, underwrite it, buy it, and then put the contractor on it. They rehab it. They check in with me every so often. And it doesn't require a lot of my time because I don't physically do the work. I actually have contractors do that for me, but they're really good. After so many years of fixing and flipping, you get a pretty good team together. You can trust them. And when they send me the photos, I know they're not photoshopped, and I know that I know these people. So the work is good. They're honorable people. When I first got started, that was one of the biggest things. You give them a big deposit up front, and next thing you know, they disappear with your money, and it's like, what in the world just happened? But no, yeah, that's pretty much how I run my day. Most of my deals that I find, I get from wholesalers or real estate agents down in Savannah. I really don't look in any other markets in Savannah.
Savannah's been your main fix and flip since you started in 2001?
When I first started, I did fix and flips. And that's a good question. I'm glad you asked me because I haven't always been in Savannah. I started my very first fix and flip, which I call the haunted flip. That's a real story. I got a whole story behind that. That was in Prince George's County, Maryland, just inside the not the Baltimore, but the Washington Beltway. And I did that there. And I gave my name, my fix and flips weird names because of the weird things that would happen. And I predominantly did C and D neighborhoods. I guess you know where I'm going with that. But I would give them all names because I have the weirdest things happen. I had Shakedown Street. There was the Haunted Flip. There was Cujo House. There was I had some really good ones. Oh, there was Crooked House. The Crooked House was the craziest thing. No matter what I could not get that house straight no matter what I did. But yeah, I have some really funny stories back when I first got started. Really didn't know. I mean, I sold new home sales for like 20 years. And by the time I got into fix and flipping, I had been in the business of real estate for about 10 years, but not really in the business of it, but just as a real estate agent, I was kind of like a service provider.
Right.
But I worked for a new home builder, and I sold homes for them. And that's where I kind of got my background in construction. And I actually, before selling new homes, I used to swing a hammer for Ryan Homes, framing houses. Yeah. I got a background there too. So yeah, I kind of like went there. Now in 2008, I don't know, you look a little young for that, but in 2008, the market kind of went sideways. My company didn't need salespeople anymore. Lost my job there. I was holding about 9 fix and flips financed, which I could not sell. And if I could sold them, I sold them for a complete loss. That was a total meltdown. And by 2010, I was completely out of the game. It didn't reemerge again about 2018, about 8 years hiatus. Got back in full scale, full time. I mean, just looking actively every day for fix and flips, about 2022. So about 3 years ago. And now I'm back full in fix and flipping, but not as much, not as actively as I used to be. When I first did it, I mean, I was walking my houses every day. I made the negotiations up front with the seller, and I sold the house. I bought the house. I did everything, including find them, walking, door knocking and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore because, I find that it's much more valuable to my time to pay people who are really good at that, better than me, to do that part of it. And I would rather just pay them, a couple grand, 5, 6, 10 grand. I think the most I paid a wholesaler was 15,000, which that one I have given a name called the Forever House. Always name your flips when they give you a headache, and give them a good name because they give you good stories.
Stories are important.
Oh yeah,
man. That's you've been to the gambit of real estate, and it's so many different levels: framing, sales, fix and flip.
I did mortgage lending for a little bit. I tried mortgage lending after the 2008 meltdown, which shut down my whole operation basically. And I could tell you stories about the whole 2008 nonsense that was going on behind the scenes with all the lenders and the shady stuff they were doing. It was, and every single one of us were involved. If you were selling them, you knew what was going on, but if you didn't sell it, somebody else would, and your builder was on you to hit quota, and it's like, it's going to happen regardless. So you might as well play along. But what I did wrong is I didn't prepare for the downside, and I got taken out at the knees, but that happens. And, I expect that to happen again in your lifetime. So just always make sure you're in a safe position. You're not over leveraged. You have plenty of cash on hand. Never leave yourself cash poor in a situation like that, because right now I'm going through it kind of again. I got 2 fix and flips down in Savannah that I cannot unload. Mainly one is the Forever House I was telling you about. Mainly just hung up with the city delays, all these regulations, rules they keep throwing at me. Maybe rip off my roof twice, maybe rip out my windows twice, things like that. Maybe rip up my subfloors to show the new inspectors that silly nonsense. And now, the price of the home has gotten so high, I can't make a profit on it. But those things are fine because I can always rent it out. I have a backup plan. back in 2008, I didn't have a backup plan. I had zero backup plan. It was like, thought I was the smartest kid in the room when I realized it was easy to sell houses back then because a monkey could do it. Anyone could have sold houses back then and made a bundle. So now it's a little bit, I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Be a little bit smart, keep cash in reserve for these downturns. Make sure you got some capitals. If you have to fall back to turn one of your flips into a rental property, you have to go that route, but make sure you have cash. That if there's anything anyone ever asked me, make sure you have cash because these downturns can really hurt.
So thorough, so helpful. Do you remember your first fix and flip? How did that go?
Yeah, I do. It was a haunted flip. And it was in Capitol
Tell me
Heights.
about it. So Maryland's one of the states that's been around the longest, right? So they have a lot of history there.
I forget where they fall. I think they were Delaware was the first state. Maryland fell within the first 5, but I don't know if it was like the 3rd or 4th or, now I feel like I need to Google that and find out right now where they fell. But yeah, Maryland's been around since 1604. I think I might be off on a few of those years. But anyway, the very first flip I did, I found from a real estate agent who came to me. Her name was Brahman, and she basically brought the deal to us. At the time, I had a partner. I won't say his name because he's wanted by the feds. But she brought the deal to us, and we walked through it, and it was like, what was it? I think it was $38,000. Now, mind you, this is 2003, or no, it's 2001. So $38,000 today sounds like, what? No, that was a lot of money. But anyway,
right.
And it was Capitol Heights, Maryland, and the homes in those areas were selling for about, I don't know, 150, 175 on average. So we got the house for $38,000. It was a real wreck. So we get into it and we start the rehab, and man, it was rough. So we get through the rehab part, and we get to the part where and most flippers know what I'm talking about. We get to what's called punch out, where you're doing your final work and you're getting it ready for the market. And of course, these weird things started happening in the house. Like the contractors that would go in there would tell us they don't want to work in the house anymore. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We pay you guys well. And so it was weird things. And then I had this one crew, they were from El Salvador, and they said Diablo's in the house. Diablo.
Ooh,
Diablo.
wow.
And I'm like, what? What? That's where I first heard the word Diablo. I did not know that meant the devil. So I was like, oh, okay. So we couldn't find contractors to stay in the house long enough just to finish up all the work. They kept running into electrical problems. We'd go in there and the water was running, and we couldn't figure out what the heck was going on there. And so the other guy and I, we went in there and said, we're going to have to do this ourselves. So we actually finished up the tail end of the house ourselves. And I'll never forget, we were down in the basement and we were working. We're doing some drywall touch up and things like that. And all of a sudden upstairs, we hear these heavy boots walking around upstairs on the upper floor. And, I'll say his name. What the heck? It's Randy. Randy's like, dude, did you leave the door unlocked up upstairs? You know not to leave these houses unlocked while we're in here working late at night. And I said, I didn't leave anything unlocked. If anyone left it out, you left it unlocked. Now, in the neighborhoods we did work in, we both carried. And I don't need to say any more on that. So now I never put any rounds in mine because I just don't believe in it, but I carried it just for, don't mess with me because I know how to use this. I really didn't know how to use it, but it's all for show, man.
Right.
But Randy knew how to use it. It's a
thought, leave them so they don't know.
I'm downstairs. We hear these heavy steps walking around upstairs, and Randy draws, and then, I freak out. I draw, and we're down at the bottom, at the very bottom where the stairs come down. Now, I had ordered the stairs, and I remember I ordered 13 stairs because they were 8-foot ceilings down in the basement. It was the 13 stairs. I ordered all wood stairs, and we were down, and I didn't do open risers or anything like that. So there was a drywall that went down, and the stairs came down into the basement, and there was drywall blocking the view. You would come down into a landing to the bottom, and you'd enter the basement. So we hear these heavy steps coming and they come to the top of the basement door. We hear the door open and Randy looks at me and I look at him and I'm like, there's somebody in the house. So he goes to the far end of the room to like look up the staircase and I'm on the wall along the stairs. And of course I'm freaking out because there's somebody in the house. So Randy says out loud, I got a gun and I'm going to shoot you. And we hear heavy boots, heavy boots, heavy boots. And then we hear, and he doesn't turn to the very end of the stairs where you can look up the staircase. He stays out on the side waiting for someone to come down to the landing because here come the steps. And we hear the heavy boots coming down the steps. You know, the phrase, my heart was in my throat. It's a real thing. Your heart is beating so bad. You feel it in your throat. I mean, I didn't, you know, I'm a fix and flipper. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a shooter. So, I'm leaning against the wall and Randy yells out, I'm going to shoot you if you don't tell me who you are and where you're in my house. And I said, yeah, man. So, and I remember Randy gave me a look. He goes, what was that? You know? And I was like, so I'm like freaking out. I don't know. I was like, 30 something at the time. So, so you hear the steps coming down the stairs, one after another. It was like, and I wasn't counting them at first, but then I did started counting. And I know there were 13 stairs. And when I started counting, after there were so many steps already, you know, I counted, 14, 15, 16. I'm like, what? And it just got weird. And then they just stopped. Nothing. Stopped. No more sounds. No more steps. So Randy turns and he goes and steps in the lane and looks up the stairs and he looks down the wall at me and he says, there's nobody here. And I said, yeah, there is. There's somebody in this house. And I'm not going up there. You go first. And now I'm looking around me because I'm thinking there's someone in the basement, getting the EBGBs like you wouldn't believe. So we both go upstairs. We go through the entire house. We check the front doors. We check all the windows. All of them are locked because we have a rule when we're working in the house late at night. Everything gets locked up because these neighborhoods were not pretty. So there's no like footprints or anything like somebody walking in the carpet. You know, you heavy boots, you see someone walk across, you see boot prints.
Right.
We kept it immaculate. And we didn't see anything in the house, couldn't figure it out. And Randy didn't believe in ghosts. And I kind of did ever since the whole Diablo thing. And our real estate agent had brought her dog into the house one day. The dog's name was Yobo. I forget what that means. It's Korean for something, but I forget what it means. Mm. But anyway, so the dog is in the middle of the room and it's barking at the corner. I mean, vicious. I mean, growling, snarling at the corner of the living room. Just, there's nothing there. We hadn't put anything in. There's nothing. But the dog was going at the corner of this room like it was going to murder something or something was going to murder it. It would like lunge in and sneak back and lunge in, sleep like it was like it saw something, but couldn't see, we couldn't see it. And right. We just thought the dog was like crazy at the time. But there was a lot of little things. And during the whole time we were in the house, like I kept feeling someone pull on my shirt all the time. But at the time I thought it was like getting snagged on like maybe a stud or a nail that was sticking out. I didn't think anything of it, but it happened so often. I'm like, it can't happen that many times. But again, I still played it off. But that night when we were in that basement, everything, say, oh yeah, all the weird things have been happening in this house. The lights being turned on in the middle of the night. We have to go and we're like, come on, all the lights are on. We don't even have it on a lockbox yet. It's not like an agent could go in there and take anyone around. And, it was just the weirdest thing. But we did get it sold. We finally finished it up and we would check on any problems with the house. And, no, we love the house. It's great. Thank you. Awesome job and all that stuff. And Randy and I like, maybe it just didn't like us, whatever was in there. Right. So the new owner, zero problems, never heard a complaint from him, never got any warranty calls for electrical plumbing problems because that's what we were having. Like the thermostat would all of a sudden be up on like 100 or something stupid.
Wow.
Or it would be the AC would be running in the winter. We flid to flip in like it was like wintertime and we'd come in there and then the AC has been shut. It was one of them very first digital ones back in, and it was like set at like sub-Arctic temperatures. We'd go in there, you could see your breath coming out. It was so cold in the house. I'm like, what in the world is going on with this house? But that was the weirdest flip, but we did sell it. We sold it. We did make money, although it wasn't much because we had to spend so much money, redoing things that really weren't broken, but they just kept getting weird, like electrical issues, lights flashing on and off. And it was like appliances, all of a sudden turning on the oven. Like you go in there and all of a sudden you'd see the rings on the stove all orange, like they've been turned on and like, what is going on in this? This is the weirdest thing. But that was the freakiest thing ever. First flip ever, a haunted flip. And I'm still here today. I'm still in the biz, man.
Dude, what a captivating experience. You gotta make your episodes, your podcast episodes, the haunted flip. You have your Crooked House.
I got Crooked House. Oh, Crooked House was another one I could tell you.
Rubber House.
You want to bring me back for Crooked House? I got it. Crooked House was weird. That was like, I called it the Fun House originally. And then Randy was like, no, let's just call this the Crooked House. I was like, okay. It was like being in a horror house. It was like,
wow.
It was like every walls were like, never mind. For another time.
If we have time at the end, we'll revisit that one. And so going through that, you still kept at it. You made some money, and that's something that's hard to budget for, right? The unknown, the supernatural.
Yeah. I will tell you, I know people are going to look at this and say that's a bunch of crap. And I am telling you, God is my witness. That truly happened. It was the weirdest experience I've ever had in my life. If I were to tell you I saw a UFO, then you'd be say, okay, now he's making it up. But that was the weirdest experience. And everyone's trying to, now you guys are imagining it. Oh yeah, we were both imagining it at the same time.
Yeah, I haven't had an experience like that with the fix and flip, but I did have one at a house. We were staying at my mom's house for a little bit, and me and my wife were there. Nobody else was at the house, and my mom had 2 little chihuahuas, and they were quiet and they were fine. And my wife was in the shower, and then I heard sound like a couple of kids just laughing, hee hee hee, and then the dogs just went to the back door and started barking like crazy. And then I look out, the lights were on everywhere, nobody else is in the house, and then none of the TVs are on, and then the dog stopped. And that was it. But it was weird just hearing. It wasn't like boots and scary and having to draw.
Oh, yeah. If you hear heavy boots in your house, you're going to freak out. That was some scary stuff, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, hey, you kept at it. That's great.
Yeah. So, I figured, what's the odds of me ever having that? It's like being struck by lightning. What's the likelihood of you getting hit a second time?
All right. Yeah, for sure.
Now that I've said that, the next flip I take on to be haunted. I'm in Savannah, for God's sakes.
Savannah, Georgia. Yeah, man. What got you into, so there's so much to unpack there. You're already at the level of owning because let's go with that. So you said now a lot of the fix and flips you don't do yourself. You found contractors and you paid them. When did you take that step to go ahead and start delegating that work and realize that paying them is worth more for you than it is to give up that money?
Probably about 3 years ago. With my new partner, Andrea, we're partners on everything. She's a really good partner, so much so I decided I'm just going to go ahead and take her off the market and marry her. So
shout out Andrea.
She, Andrea. I think you've met her.
Yeah. Yes.
So she is really appreciative of time. We don't have, but so much of it on this planet. From the day you're born to the day you're going to go, it's a set amount of time. And what you get to do with that time is really up to you. So, and she was like, we would talk all the time, and I don't remember when it actually clicked, but I said, my time is pretty valuable. I think there's things that I would rather be doing with my time, than, walking the streets, banging on doors, making phone calls, trying to get people to sell me their house at a discount. And then go, meet with contractors, buy the house, do the contract, go to closing, find the subcontractor, sub out all the work, go behind them, make sure everyone's doing their job, and make sure you've done your market analysis right, do your own underwriting, do the, and then put it on the market, get it sold, do all that stuff. And it's a lot of work. And if there are flippers out there that do that, and I've got nothing bad to say about that, and they can do that and make a lot of money. But I will tell you that if you give up a little bit of money to other people that are really good at it, better than you, there are wholesalers out there 10 times better than I am. I mean, they would blow me out of the water when it comes to wholesaling. And if I can only pay them, if I can get away with paying them 10 grand for their services, I make out, because that would be an awful lot of my time to find all these houses, to find the one that fits in my underwriting, negotiate that deal down to something that makes sense. And if I factored in all the hours that it took me to do that, plus my hourly rate, which I have set number that I think my time is worth, and multiplied by that, that comes to a number much greater than $10,000. So that $10,000 to that wholesaler who just brings me the deal, because he's already done all the hours. I haven't done anything. He just sent me the deal in my email, or the real estate agent who found the deal, knows my buy box, sent me the deal. They've already done all the work. I've put 0 hours into that, and it only cost me $10,000. And I don't have to worry about it. The only thing I have to do at this point is run the numbers, do the comps. Does it make sense? And then of course, I used to walk my houses and do my own estimates. My contractor does that now. So I can't just hop on a plane and fly down to Savannah, Georgia and walk a house and put together, a scope of work. I can't do that. I mean, I could, but that would be air travel, time. And then I would have to put a bid together for all the subcontractors. And then I'd have to go find the subcontractors. So now, subcontractors, but now I hire a general contractor. He makes 10%. I pay him 10% of the actual cost of the flip. So if my rehab is 75,000, I'm paying him $7,500. And he handles all the subcontractors for me. He handles the bid. He does all that. So I don't have to worry about that. And I no longer sell my own properties. I have a real estate agent that's really good in Savannah that sells them for me. And I pay that real estate agent 3%. So I don't have to. And I don't have to put up a website and maintain a web and update on all my homes for sale and save my time and money. I really don't have to do much for fixing and flipping. And I make a thinner margin, but I don't really have to do that much, if that makes sense to you. I've almost found a way to turn it into a passive active income. It's active because it's what I do, but it's to a point where I don't have to really do too much. It's done by other folks that are really, really good at what they do. And I have verified they're really, really good at what they do based on other flips that I've done with these people. So I am very fortunate to have a pretty good team that I pay very well, and I make a smaller profit, but I don't have to do anything other than underwrite the deal, which would take me about 30 minutes to do a full underwrite. And to do due diligence, I usually have my contractor and my agent do that for me. So the 30 minutes a day to look at a fix and flip possible good deal, maybe I'll look at 20 deals in a week. That'll cost me, I don't know, 10 hours a week. I'll find one in there that works, maybe two. And my time spent, and I'll still make anywhere between 25 and 30 grand on the flip. And it'll be done in about 90, 120 days. So for 10 hours for 30 grand, I mean, you do the math. That's
fantastic, man. I appreciate how thorough.
That's just the kind of the way I look at it. So,
yeah. I mean, it's great that you've been able to get to that point. Very thorough answer. I love it. And do you think that something, let me see what, so Andrea's the one that got you to think about that way and start implementing it. How long do you think it?
And I know I kind of get your question. I liked to control everything in the business because I was just like that. I mean, you do so many flips and so many things go sideways on you. You kind of like build up this defensive system. I got to control everything. The one thing I will control, nobody touches the money. Nobody touches the money. I do all the bookkeeping. I do all the accounting. I do the taxes and all that stuff. That is just That's the one thing I cannot ever let go of. I will never let an accountant take care of my books. But Andrea, her thoughts were on this. There's other things that I would rather like. She loves to travel. She loves cruises. She likes going to other countries. I do too. But if you spend all your time with these flips, you can't do that. So I just focus my time on what I do well, and that's the underwriting. And that is the only thing that I do on my fix and flips. And I haven't and I'm not making this up. The last fix and flip I did, never once set a foot in the house, never even saw the house in person, never set foot in it, made 22,000 on it, put, good God, maybe 5 to 6 hours total time dealing with it. And I think it was mostly getting insurance on the property and, getting a hard money loan. That was the most amount of time I put into that deal. After everything's in place, all the finance, it's autopilot. All the team members that I've got in place, and they're so good at what they do. I don't have to deal with it. If there's an issue, they'll call me and they'll say, Helen, this is going on. This is what the budget called for. Here's what we ran into. What do you want to do? And I'll look at the numbers and I'll say, okay, fix this. And then, and then we'll just take it out of the budget. And we're just going to take a lower margin. Or maybe pull it out of the budget somewhere else. Maybe not so good a landscaping package or something like that.
Thank you for covering so many angles, man. I really appreciate that.
But yeah, that's how I got into more of the hands off kind of. It's basically Andrea. She just really made me realize, my time is pretty valuable. And, not that my time is any more valuable than anyone else's, but my time to me is very invaluable. And I prefer to do things that I want to do. And what I don't want to do is argue with the painter that the paint's the wrong color. And I want to fight with electricians that they owe me 2 extra outlets, so they should have put GFIs over here. And I don't know why they would put them over there because there's not even a sink over there. I don't like getting into that. I don't like having those arguments anymore. I like to have a stress-free life. My only stress in the world is if I made a bad underwrite and the numbers didn't come out good. And I'm dealing with one right now in Savannah on 42nd Street. Yeah, that was a bad underwrite. I paid $50,000 for the house. You figure, how do you lose money on $50,000 when the county decides you're in a historic district when you're not? That's why. Ooh. And now you got to do all these ridiculous things. So your budget's now 40% higher than you originally planned for. And the delays are ungodly. I should have had that flip done in 6 months, and we're 2 years into it. Still dealing with the city with delays, and it's one delay after another. And usually I'll let my guys handle it, but this one I had to get involved because the city is killing us on this deal. So when it's done, it's going to wind up being about $260,000 worth of costs all in, to buy it, acquisition fees, rehab fees, holding costs, finance fees. I actually am doing this one all cash. I had to call the hard money guy up and say, hey, look, this thing's going to take forever. The interest on this is going to bleed me dry. So I'm just going to pay off the debt now and I'll do this all cash. This is one of the few flips I'm doing all cash right now, which is another reason why, and I'll say it again. I'll say it twice. I'll say it 3 times. Always have a good amount of cash because this kind of stuff will happen to you. So I paid out the loan and now we're finishing the flip strictly all cash. And we've got about $250,000 in the house. It's only worth $235,000. So that we're going to rent out. Hold it. We were going to hold that one, rent it out, cash flow it. I may just pull a debt on it, just make sure it's positive cash flow, and then put the cash back to work. It won't create a tax event, so we'll probably go that route on that. But yeah, that kind of stuff I don't have to deal with. Typically, I only bring that story up because that's one time since I kind of changed over to a hands-off kind of policy to where I actually had to get involved. And 42nd Street I called it the forever flip. So it feels like 2 years, man. We're 2 years. I bought it in June of 23. We're coming up on 25 and June of 20. So yeah, it'll be 2 years this June.
I want to know how it would be as an Airbnb since it's the historic district.
No,
No.
No air, can't do it. Savannah
Wow.
is not friendly. There's certain districts, there's certain areas, I should say, that are grandfathered in where you can do Airbnb.
Yeah.
But you can't just buy a piece of property. You can't do co-living. You can, but it's so strict. It's not even worth the effort to put all the extra money in to add the extra rooms. And,
Wow.
so
How big is the house?
this one's only 1,400 square feet. It's got 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and it's got a pretty decent sized living room and dining room kitchen, which I could get 2 more rooms out of living room and dining room, make it a 6 bedroom, but I could do co-living there, but there's no parking for it. It's not allowed. It's too close to the historic district. Even though I'm not in the historic district, I'm too close. And
I got you.
The Brownstone Society, which is the historic group that regulates this stuff, they decided that since I was close, that they were going to insist that the city enforce their rules on my house. But the interesting thing was none of the other houses have to comply with these rules except mine. And the only difference is I'm a flipper. Everyone else is just a homeowner.
Mm.
So I know the game, and you just kind of got to be prepared for that.
When you said pull some debt just for people that are new to the industry, you mean like basically you get a loan on it, the DSCR cash out loan?
Yeah,
DSCR,
so I'll do what's called a DSCR loan, and that's basically a loan for the purpose that I'm going to rent it out. And the DSCRs, they basically stands for the debt service coverage ratio. And what a bank wants to do is make sure that the flip or the rental property generates enough cash to pay the debt, to service the debt. And they want a ratio. And most banks like a ratio between 1.1, 1.25. So maybe I've seen some as high as 1.5. That means the rent that you generate has to pay 1.5 the mortgage amount. So if you've got a $1,000 mortgage, they're going to want to see if you got a 1.5 DSCR loan, they're going to want to see $1,500 worth of rent so that the rent, you can show that you can cover the loan with the rent. That's basically a DSCR loan.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And you take that route because you can get cash back and use it to invest in other things.
Yep, and there's no tax on it.
Yeah, because it's a loan. There's no
Yep.
tax on it. Yeah, you do have to pay it back, and there's an interest rate. But if you do it correctly, that'll be paid by the tenant
renter,
that's
yep.
renting out
The
the house.
renter
The
will
house
pay
will
it
pay
back,
for itself.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it doesn't cost me anything to take the money out, but I can't get all the money out because
Right.
DSCR loans, they could be require 20%, 30% down. So I would have to leave that much in it. But you also got to look at what kind of rent you get. If you can't get rent, you can't just pull all the money out and you got a mortgage payment of say, $1,900 and then your rent is $2,100 and then you got insurance and taxes and maintenance fees. They're going to kick you over. You're going to be negative cash flow real quick. So, one thing I would tell most fix and flippers as a backup plan is be able to rent that thing out. So when you run your numbers, run it both ways as a fix and flip, because that's your primary business, and then run the numbers as a rental property and see if what would be the downside. That's your downside. A lot of times, people go into this industry and they only look at the upside. How much money can I make? And is not the proper way. If I've learned anything from options trading, you always look at what am I willing to risk to make this amount of money? So when you run those numbers on the rental, that is the amount of money you have at risk, because if you can't sell it for your price at the market turns, which we are seeing this in the market real time, the market is turning. It is getting weaker and you can't sell for your original projected price. You have to rent it. Make sure the rental at least breaks even, or even if it's negative a little bit, that negative a little bit, that's your risk. That is what you're risking in order to make that $30,000 paycheck. So that's the best advice I could give anybody on fixing and flipping is that backup plan. Make sure the backup plan, that is really your risk. If you have to go to plan B and it's going to cost you some money, yes, that is your risk amount. Never assume the whole value of the house is going to be at risk, because very rarely does real estate go to zero. If it does, it's because they put a prison behind you and a nuclear power plant in your front yard. Then it would probably go to zero. But
right.
That's likely not to happen. That we have zoning laws in this country. Some countries don't have zoning laws, so you just put anything you want.
Right. Or if you happen to be by a waterway and some natural disaster takes it away, not there anymore.
Like,
that was crazy during the hurricane last year.
Oh yeah. Natural disasters, man. And Californians can tell you all about that with the sinkholes and, real estate gone overnight from a rock slide or a landslide or something like that. It's crazy. Yeah, that's another way your property can go to zero. So that's your ultimate risk. But make sure you're buying in developed areas. I typically don't like buying on the water for those very reasons. I am very particular about what I buy to limit risk. I stick to a buy box that I understand, and I basically do what's called a 3-2, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet. I don't like to get outside that too much, only because those numbers I can do very quickly in my head. And I will also caution other flippers if they're like doing big high-end stuff, low-end stuff, and I'll flip anything. They say that. I would say don't do that because you can't be an expert. You will never be an expert. You will completely rely on other people to do all of your underwriting for you because you will not know the numbers to the T. I can tell you the exact cost of a furnace on one of my houses because it's the same freaking furnace every single time. But if I had to do a 2-story, say 2,500 square foot home, that furnace is going to be a bigger tonnage and the number of return vents are going to be different. So it changes your whole layout of the property. Also, there's other restrictions when you start getting into colonials, like, or if you have a basement even. I don't even like messing with basements because then you got to get into egress windows and you got to do wells around your windows for escape routes and all this. It's ridiculous. And it's not ridiculous. It's for safety, but I'm not good at those numbers. I can't calculate them quickly. So why would I put my time into learning a new product when I'm really good at this one product that everyone seems to buy anyway? So that's just kind of like how I look at it. I just stay in my lane. I don't try to be really good at high-end flips. Yeah, you can make 100, 200,000. You can make 200,000 on these high-end flips. Yeah, but I don't understand them. I can't price them. I couldn't even come close to guessing what the construction costs are going to be. And then I got to find all new crew that does that. And then it's going to require more work. I don't want to work.
Understood, man. Such a comprehensive answer. That's great to be able to tell people to focus on a specific type of property instead of going from such a wide range. Become the expert. I've heard people say when you start becoming like a wholesaler, focus on a zip code or two so you know the area well, and then you can underwrite it faster and be able to tell your numbers. Because numbers is the biggest thing. If they hash out, then you're most likely going to have a deal unless you get a historic district pop up in your backyard.
That's just the name of the game. There's risk in everything. I mean, I'm not going to say that every flip I do is going to be risk-free. I minimize the risk by the way that I have my risk management rules in place, and I'm able to mitigate a lot of that. And what I miss, the insurance usually picks up, but still, there's no way to completely eliminate the risk. And anything really. I mean, just walking down the street, there's risk. I mean, you could just, some drunk driver just takes you out at the knees right down the, there's nothing you really can do about it except, take all the measures you can think of to mitigate it. And, if you're going walking down the street, don't walk down the street after 2 a.m. when the drunk driver's around. Just do it about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they can see you. So, and there's a higher probability they'll miss you. I mean, I'm being a little bit silly about it, but, when it comes
it can happen. You'd be surprised, right? I've watched this on YouTube, the like fails and stuff. You see a car passing by and the freaking tree just happens to fall on that one car.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are the odds?
There was this one, it was crazy. There's a parking lot and a bunch of cars and the small little tornado comes, picks up one car and throws it off to the side on its side. And nothing else was touched.
That's crazy. It was probably my car.
Outside the haunted house.
Yeah, right by the haunted house. That's crazy. Little vortex sucked it into this, I don't know, and disappeared from the earth, from existence. But basically, yeah, but back to not my original, but my point there was really be good at what you want, the one thing. And if you want to do other things, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying be good at one thing and then grab a partner that does that. And then you do this and you form a partnership and they're good at that and you're good at this. And, and that's just, don't, and if you are going to pick a partner, pick someone who isn't like you. I cannot express enough. Do not pick people that think the way you think because you're going to double your risk because if they think like you do, you'll go down one course and if that's the wrong road, you'll be doubly hurt. So you don't necessarily have to be your best friend, but you have to kind of like them, but they have to be a different way of thinking about things. I mean, I'm not really interested in partnering with people that think like I do. I already think like me. So I just need somebody else to think a different way. And I will only partner with people that want to do something different than what I do. And that's the way I look at it. And if my area of expertise to say it's a weak market and we're not making money over here at what I do really well, maybe their end is really doing well and you're making money there. So partnerships do work. And, I have a partner that is completely not me, 100% zero, not me. And, she is really good at details. I mean, she doesn't miss a thing. She goes to the contracts and says, "Hey, did you see this line right here?" I said, "No, what? Oh, what? I have to give him my baby?" That kind of thing. So right. She catches things. She does great due diligence. She gets on the phone. She'll call the city. She calls people you didn't even think to call. And she's like, "Did you know?" We were looking at an RV park and I'm not kidding. So we're looking at an RV park in, it was called Jacksonville, Texas. And it was a real nice old country guy, real nice dude. And, he wanted to sell us the park and he said he would cut us a deal. And it looks like 19 pads. He wanted to sell it for $500,000. I'm like, hey, that's a good deal. These things are pretty good. So Andrea, my partner, I ran the numbers, said, these numbers look good. There's no way we should say no. She says, okay, cool. So she goes to work on her due diligence, calls the city. And this is the conversation she has with the city. And I'm not kidding. Hey, we're looking to buy this RV park over here on X and X Street. We want to know what would it cost or what would the city charge for additional hookups if we want to do extra RV parks, or extra RV pads. And the city planner goes, RV pads? What are you talking about? There are no RV parks allowed in our city. And she's like, oh, really? We're looking at one on the street and they've got 19 pads and they want $500,000 for it. And they also have 2 existing homes on it. He said, if you want to do anything with that property, first things first, you got to take out all the RVs because it is only approved for 5 mobile homes, certainly not 19 RV pads.
Wow.
He had put in 19 RV pads and tapped into the electric and everything. He had all the hookups there. It was all illegal. The whole site was illegally done, but they never applied for permits. It just sort of did it.
Yeah.
And, the city didn't know about it. And they said, yeah, cause we were going to take out these 2 dilapidated houses and put in tiny houses. City says, absolutely not. None of this stuff is legal. You'll never get anywhere. I said, well, okay, never mind. We're not doing that deal. Numbers look great, but there's more to it. And,
you know how long that RV park's been in business?
He's had it for 2 years.
Okay.
So he bought it, cleaned it up, probably came to the same conclusion I did and said, hey, I'll cut you a deal on this.
Anyway, yeah, I've heard that about RV parks. There's a lot that aren't permitted and they're just there or they're bigger than they were supposed to be.
Oh, absolutely. RV parks are the wild, wild west of real estate, man. It is. They are so, I see the need because affordable housing is a real deal. And RV parks are a good solution because it's inexpensive. But people are buying these plots and they're putting these RV parks in these pads. And some of them are doing what are called dry lots where you have no hookups. It's like we'll rent you some space to park on. And they put these extra pads in. They don't tell the city that they're putting them in. And I'm like, well, how do they even get a meter? Well, they don't. They don't get they just have 1 meter and they just charge extra rent on these pads for the excess use of electricity. It's just crazy. So, I mean, the due diligence on the RV parks is very difficult. But you can underwrite them like any other asset. It's just, you really got to dig into the numbers on RV parks, because these sellers, some of them, it's their only source of revenue. It's the only thing they've had their whole life to generate money, and it's their business. And, and a lot of the numbers that they give you are just made up numbers, and they mix their personal expenses with business expenses. And you can't put, what's the actual cost of this park? What is it really worth? Because you can't get any legitimate numbers. And you can get their taxes, but they won't even have, they'll have like a Schedule C or something like that. And they'll put a couple of things in there, but then they'll dump a bunch of things on there just to get their taxes down. So you don't even really know what these things are worth. But with a good partner, like the one I have, the partner, and if you have a really good partner and she's hot, go ahead and marry her. That's my recommendation. Lock her down, man. Lock her down. And they've got to
be already married.
Oh, 2 years. 2 years.
Oh, yeah. I said, unless you're already married.
Oh, no, 2 years. I married her 2 years ago. We formed a partnership.
My comment is, if you find a partner and she's hot, but if you're already married, don't marry her.
Oh yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That would be bad, very bad. Yeah. Everything you work for could be taken. Everything you worked for. Yeah, your current wife will take it, or your current husband if you're looking to go that route. I don't know, but anyway, so a good partner. I don't know too many flippers that are good just by themselves. They always have a partner, and sometimes it's their spouse. But I don't know too many flippers that are really, really successful that don't have a partner.
Yeah. I mean, the how is the biggest thing. One thing, going to the RV park, what made you get into RV parks now, into looking for that?
Affordable housing is the trend that I'm seeing in this country. The destruction of the dollar by the Federal Reserve has made it very expensive for the working class, to carve out a decent living. They have stripped almost 95% of the value out of the dollar over the past 40 years. And our government is complicit with that, with all the spending they do. And a lot of people don't understand why prices rise and fall. It's supply and demand. It's true of everything. It doesn't matter if it's the labor market, or it's the shoe market, or it's the stock market, or it's the real estate market, or the bond market. Prices go up when there's a high amount of demand over supply, and supply over demand. And I tell people all the time, one thing to think about this is, think of the money in your pocket as your demand. It is your claim to goods and services produced. So the more money there is available, the more demand there is. And when the government does something stupid like restrict production of new things, you get a shortage. And now you got all this demand because they do all this spending. And if you think about the things that the government focuses on, real estate, energy, education, healthcare, those 4 things, those are bigs for the government. And they spend heavily in those 4 areas. And those 4 areas are what? The most expensive areas in this country, because they dump so much money into it. That money going into healthcare, that money going into real estate, that money going into energy, that money going into education, all costs, though, makes the value of those sectors go up, because there's all this demand. It's a good thing they're trying to do. They're trying to help pay people get an education. But when you're plowing that much money into education, but you're not increasing the amount of education services available, like new schools, more desks. If you're not handling that side, you're just dumping money and just say, here's $25,000, go get a degree. And you're on a waiting list. Well, the cost of education is going to go up. That's true of healthcare. That's true of real estate. It's true of everything. I remember, in the election, I think the candidates had their different takes on what they were going to do. I think, Kamala wanted to do $25,000 towards, contribution to help people buy a new home. And I'm like, hey, that's good. But it's also bad because she's forgotten about the supply side. It's one thing to help people buy a home. Here's $25,000. Remember, money's demand. You create all this demand for homes, but you don't do anything to increase the supply to meet that demand. You're going to get ridiculous inflation. And the government has run those four sectors up for the past 40 years. You go back and look at what the cost of education was when I went in 1980 versus what it is today. It's exponential. It's almost 20 times more expensive just 40 years ago. And the same is true of energy costs and healthcare. Look, healthcare is the most abused by the government. So those areas you got to think about when you're investing in real estate. I always kind of look at, what is the government doing? Are they facilitating supply, or are they promoting demand? Now, the government previous to the one we have right now facilitated a lot of demand, but no supply. So the play for those 4 or 5 years was buy real estate. It's going to go up, and I made a lot of money in the stock market just because things went up. All this demand money printing by the Federal Reserve and spending by the federal government, they caused the price of assets to go up. So always pay attention to what the incumbent is going to do with the money. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, because no matter what they do, some things are going to hurt you, some things are going to help you. And it's true on the flip side. Some things are going to help you, some things are going to hurt you. You just have to know how to play it, and you just have to pay attention to what their policies are. And if they truly intend on making good on those policies. That's the other thing. That's the risk factor. President come and say, yeah, they're going to help spend all this money to, for education, but then do nothing about it. And you're thinking education costs are going to rise, or real estate's going to rise, or whatever it is, and they don't do anything about it. That's the risk. But I made a lot of money under Joe Biden. I'm not complaining about it. I'm not bragging about it. I just understood his policy. He was going to cause inflation. And then I let my assets rise in value and became quite wealthy because of it. Thanks, Joe Biden. Now, under Trump, it's going to be a different thing. He doesn't care about Wall Street. He's focusing on Main Street. So my thesis has changed. I'm a little bit weak on real estate right now. And I'm basically big on precious metals and energy stocks because that is what he's promoting to do. So that's where I'm going to go. And then at the end of his 4 years, I'll say, thank you, Mr. Trump, for the money. And the next guy coming in, whatever they're saying they're going to do, I'm going to change my investing thesis based on that. So it's difficult to know. But the cost of things are going to go up, and I don't really see this changing. I have been an investor for a really long time, and I've been a trader for about 7 years. So the one thing I do understand is the markets. And you can look at a couple indicators on the markets, and they can tell you exactly where you're trending. The very good one that I look at is called XLRE, which is the real estate trend within the S&P 500. It's a basket of companies that basically represent the real estate sector. And it has things like Zillow in it, and Redfin, and brokerage houses, and BlackRock is in there. Now, so it basically represents the real estate industry. And when you look at XLRE, you can see a clear downtrend, which one thing I will tell people in the real estate industry, the markets tell you exactly what's going on because investors are in the know. And buying and selling of these investment vehicles will tell you the price of things. If they're going down and it's a steady trend down, investors know what's coming. And most of us don't know because we're waiting for those government reports to come out. Oh, what was GDP last quarter? What was the consumer price index last quarter? What was the consumer sentiment survey? What was that last month? Those are all lagging, but the market is telling you in real time what's really going on. And the XLRE is telling me that real estate is getting very weak across the nation. And there are some pockets you can make money. And that is true because even in a declining stock market, there's always a couple companies that are doing well. You can find them. You just have to understand how to evaluate your markets, understand how to evaluate the value of an asset, your flip. And that's true of all assets. All assets underwrite the same way. I don't care what someone tells you. You have to underwrite things differently. No, that's not true. Underwriting rules are the same no matter if it's a fix and flip, a rental property, or if you're buying a gas station. These rules do not differ. They don't change just because it's a shorter term asset versus a longer term asset. It's all when you buy anything, you're buying the cash flow. If it's a fix and flip, you're buying one cash flow at the end. If it's a rental property, you're buying the sale at the end plus all the rents collected over the time. And you got to value all those cash flows back to dollars today. What are they worth today? But I haven't received them yet. I'm not going to receive all of them over a course of 10 years. And that's how you have to factor in the value of everything. If you're buying an apartment building and you think it's going to sell for this amount in 10 years and you're going to collect rent every year of this amount, you got to take those cash flows and discount them back to what it's worth today. How long am I willing to wait to get $10,000 in 10 years? Is $5,000 paying too much? Is $4,000 too much? How much am I want to pay today that will turn into $10,000 in 10 years? And I do have some rules. When I make all my investment choices, I have a rule of 18.75. I don't really tell people this, and that basically will double your money every 4 years. If your investment makes an 18.75% return on an per annual basis, you will double your wealth every 4 years. And I kind of like underwrite to that number. So, when I'm doing a fix and flip, you're in those deals for 3 to 6 months. You're not in there for a full year. So it's not like I have to make sure I make 18.75 on a flip. If I do, that's great, because if I do 2 of those 6 months flips in a year, well, that's 37% or 37.5% return. I mean, that's doubling your money every 3 years. So that's pretty good. But if you're doing fix and flips and you're doing them every 4 months, and you're making, let's say a modest 15%, man, you're doubling your money every 18 months.
Wow.
If you want to think about it like that.
Yeah.
So finance.
It's like the rule, like 72, you divide that number by 72 and then you can figure out how fast you can double it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You take the interest rate, you divide it into number 72. So if you I'll pick a number that's easy, take 2%, divide that into 72. That goes 36 times. So it takes 36 years for a 2% return to double. 4% would take 18 and a half years. 8% would take 9.25 years. 16% would take 4 5/8 years. Yeah, I'm pretty good at math, by the way.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's just to give you an idea, how I look at what we and Andre invest in. Those are the numbers that I look at because I have to hit my overall time horizon plan. And 18.75% returns are a must. If I'm going to do a rental property, it's got to return to me on average 18.75%. And that gets into a whole thing called an IRR, which is internal rate of return. And that's a whole nother webinar for that. And if people want to know how to calculate, I'll teach them. I can teach anyone anything they want to know about finance. But the future value, present value, rate of return, and number of years you're going to own the asset. Those are the 4 things you need to know to calculate the value of anything. If you know those 4 numbers, you really only knew 3 of the 4 numbers. You can calculate the 4th based on the other 3. And that will tell you the value of every asset. If you ever wanted to buy, you aren't sure what it's worth, those 4 numbers will tell you exactly what it's worth to you today. And finance is important. And every investor, you might be a good wholesaler. You might be a good fix and flipper. You might be a good multifamily guy. You might be a great co-living person. You might be good at other things, but every single investor, they're all investors. They better know those numbers. They have to know the numbers. Do not rely on other people to calculate your numbers.
That's amazing advice, the IRR. We got to get you some more videos on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I
record this information, teach people this stuff, and get more followers and people.
Yeah. Andrea,
you start getting yourself some.
That I do more to help people understand finance. And I do see a lot on the influencers on the internet that are just teaching it incorrectly. It's kind of funny. Pace Morby is one of my favorite people on the planet, but even he used Delta incorrectly. But, I don't expect him to know everything. I just expect him to be really good at helping people get better. And he is.
Shout out Pace.
I always give a shout out to Pace, but even he makes mistakes. Even I make mistakes. I see people like Grant Cardone, another great investor who knows what he's talking about. He says things that are not correct, but it's part of their get you to call them, give up your money so you invest in their projects. And in the end, you might do better just investing in your project. But I do have money in one of Grant Cardone's projects. I have money in one of Pace's projects. I don't have any problems with it. I just like to know the numbers. And when someone's BSing me, I know right away when they're BSing me on the numbers. They might be able to pull the wool over my eyes on other areas of this industry, but that's why I have Andrea. But yeah, the numbers are something that I would recommend every fix and flipper. If you're going to do fix and flip, you better know your numbers. And when I say know your numbers, I mean know the cost to put in a furnace, know the cost of a sink, a pedestal sink, know the cost of your cabinets, know the cost of your flooring if you're going to do vinyl or carpet. Know your numbers, and not just know the cost of the material, but know your labor costs. And you can get really close at guesstimating. And here's what I used to do, and this is kind of cool. When I first got into fix and flipping, I would go to a Home Depot and I would write down prices, sink, cabinets, for what things cost, and then I would go back into their department where they will go to your house and they'll install it for you and get their labor costs. And I'd have a pretty good idea of what it would cost to rehab a house. So it's the big things you got to look at though. You got to look at, what's the cost of an outlet? What's the cost of the linear number of feet of wire? And if your hookup line is over here on the east side of the house and you got to run wires all the way over here, how many feet of wiring are you going to need to get it over there? How many hours is it going to take an electrician to do that? Those are the kinds of numbers that I'm talking about. And yeah, you do got to know the other numbers too. What's the home worth when you sell it? And there's a whole series. I mean, Jamil does a great job of what's comping. And he follows appraisers rules. And that is great advice. That is excellent advice if you know the appraisers rules. He has some videos on that. So yeah, know those numbers. Know what your asset's worth. Another one that a lot of new flippers missed, and I want to get that out there, is don't forget your holding costs. Do not forget your holding costs because they are a real cost. They do happen. You will have to pay electric and water while you're doing and gas while you're performing a flip. Property taxes are accruing. Insurance is accruing, and you might have paid them up front already, but they're accruing. You get a credit back if you don't use the whole 6 months of your property taxes you paid in advance at closing. You say you only had it for 4 months, you get 2 months back. And if it was $1,500, well, what does that work out to? So it's $400 back. That's, every dollar counts. I mean, every day on average costs me about $78 a day to carry a flip. And, that number is significant when you're dealing with, like a $30,000 or $40,000 budget and you got a holding budget of $6,000, that's a significant number. And you got to remember that these more difficult flips, these ones that are like, full guts and you're factored 6, but always underwrite 2 months more than you think you need. So if you think you're going to need 6, you're really going to need 8 because, things do happen. And a lot of times that number can be wrong. Not a lot of times, but sometimes those numbers can be wrong because I'm dealing with one right now on 42nd Street. And I'm 48 months, 24 months into that one. And I only budgeted for 6. So the holding costs are down because I don't have any utilities running to it right now, but I do have to pay the property tax and the insurance on it. Right now, it's just liability. I don't even have builder's coverage because I don't have anyone working on it because I'm waiting for the next approval phase. But there are things you can do to get your costs down, but know them. Know what your daily cost is to hold a property to the end because that number is real and it does cost. You may not see it, but it is there and it's accruing slowly and you do have to pay them. So those are numbers you definitely want to factor in. And I do my flips very simple. I start with what I think I could sell it for on the low end, a conservative number. And then I back out my selling costs. And then I back out my construction costs. And then I back out my holding costs. And then I take out my money that I want to make in the way of profit and also back out the financing costs, if any, whatever's left over, that's what you're willing to pay for that property. That's it. That's the math. That's the simplicity of it. It's just you start with what it'll sell for, should sell for, back it all out, and whatever's left over is what you should pay for. And that includes your cost to acquire it. So if you can buy it for $100,000, you can't pay $100,000 for a property because the closing costs will kick you over that. And, so you got to make sure that the cost to buy the house and the price of the house does not exceed that number. That's pretty much how I look at it. Yeah, that's me. That's how I do things. Very simple.
Very well said, man. That's very important information. Where can people find you if they have questions about wholesaling, where they can learn more about from a very experienced wholesaler?
Well, if they want to get into wholesaling, I'm not their guy. But if they want to get into
fix and flip.
If they want to get into fix and flip, they can go to my website, alondriacompany.com, and leave me their information there, and it'll send me an email and I'll contact with them. If they want to do something in Savannah, I'm not really interested in doing anything else right now because I'm really good at understanding the Savannah market. So I don't really
focus on one spot. Yeah. Fantastic advice again.
I just stay there. Some people do multiple markets and that's fine. They're good at it. But I will tell you, those types of people are rare that can focus and be really, really good at multiple things. I mean, there's only been a handful of Mozarts, Einsteins, Newtons that are just really, really good and their brains work like that. Mine doesn't. I know my limitations, so I stick to what I understand and I stay in my lane and I don't pretend to know anything more than what I know. And if I don't know something, I will go find someone that knows. I am not ashamed to ask an expert. It is the rule of money number 4 that I have. And the rule of money number 4 is don't lose money. Now, Warren Buffett's rule is that's rule 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2 is if for whatever reason you forget, look back to rule number 1. Don't ever forget rule 1. That's rule 2. But yeah, my rule 4 is basically, the rule basically says that, don't lose money, of course, but I forgot what I was talking about just now. I mean, you ever lose your train of thought and then you're on something and next thing you know, what was I just talking about? I got myself on my own rabbit trail. But anyway. But if they want information on fixing and flipping, then definitely, go to alondriacompany.com, and Alondria Company is ALLAN, DREA company, all one word at Gmail or at .com. And it's also our email address with a .com.
Yeah. I'll put the information below.
Okay.
Drop a comment for Mr. Alan Foster here. If you want to know more about fix and flipping, he's given so much good advice on how to keep it on basis and to be able to look at it profitable, focus in that one area. I'll put his information below. His company is Alan Andrea, not all Andrea.
Yeah. It's Alondria.
Yeah, it's a combination of them too. Fantastic. If we have some more time, my view when I'm looking at RV parks, I know it's something that I've recently started hearing a lot more about. But to me, and I don't know if it's just my point of view, RV parks, you think only people that have a significant amount of money have RVs, so it's not really affordable housing. How does having a place to park your RV with connections become affordable housing? Do they buy the RVs discounted or are RVs that inexpensive?
Yeah, you can buy a fully rehabbed RV for $15,000.
$15,000.
Your rent on an RV pad, if you're going by the night, $60 a day. Every time it's $600. So, it's like, and you can do monthly. Some people do monthlies and it's not that expensive. Some RV parks are more expensive than others because they have really nice, they got public bathrooms and showers and they've got things to do in the RV park, mini golf course, stuff like that. And some are just a place to literally park your car and sleep, or your RV and sleep. It really depends on what kind of market you're going after. But I'm finding a lot of these types of communities, people live in their RVs because they can't afford simple rent. So what I see a lot of these RV park people do is they'll go out and they'll buy old beat up RVs, rehab them, seller finance the RV to their tenant and lease them the land. And they can stay in these things relatively inexpensively. I see this a lot with migrant workers. Like, maybe they're going to be going to, I'll say, where's it? There's one up in Nevada. I can't remember. It's a mining area where they got all these rare minerals that they found. Anyway, so, they go stay in these RV parks and they work there until the mine's done. And then they go somewhere else. And these RV parks are all around these like areas where there's workers needed. And they go from, construction, not construction, but work site to work site. It could be a mine. It could be a oil drilling rig. They just need work because there's just no work anymore in this country like it used to be. It's all been farmed out of the country. So RV parks are offering a way for people to have some sort of affordable housing. I've seen whole families in these things. I'm not kidding you. When I was in Texas looking at these RV parks, there's kids living in these things because that's all their parents can afford. It's shameful that this country, that happens in this country, but it happens. And there's not much I can do about it, except, I could be angry about it, but it is just the way that it is. It's the way our government has run this, devalued everything, or devalued the dollar so badly that everything is just unaffordable. So people's normal wages can't even keep up with just simple living standards. And I'm finding this is a large segment of the population that needs affordable housing. They need it. It's like gotta happen. It's horrible out there that the way these people have to live, just so they don't have to live under a bridge. It's horrible. So I tend to also, another thing that I do is I try to keep my properties that I fix and flip under the median price. So I don't like expensive homes, not because I have anything against them, but I'm not serving people building $700 and $800 million homes. Yes, it's great for my balance sheet, but I'm not really feeling good about it because those families don't need that. That's just excess that they need. The people that I'm helping, I'm in the 250 to 300 price range. And those people can afford these homes. And there's a whole segment of the population that can't even afford that. They can't even afford 100. So RV parks, also tiny homes, are a good area in a good subsector of the real estate industry or sector that I do like. And I am seriously considering transitioning to. Also modular homes. I can get modular homes down in Alabama for $25,000 for the same size home I'm fixing and flipping. $25,000, it's going to cost me about $10,000 to transport it. If I buy the lot down in Savannah for about $60,000 and prep the lot, put in the pad and everything and get all the permits, it's going to cost me another 25 plus a builder. I'm all into this deal. I can get a home done for less than $100,000. Brand new modular home. Can't tell the difference between a stick built and a modular home. Cannot tell. And you can sell these things for $150 to $175. And those folks can afford it. And that is where I see a need. And RV parks are for those folks who just can't even afford $150. They don't even have good credit or no credit for that matter. Or they don't have bank accounts. They work off cash. It's difficult to operate in this country without a bank account. So those are the type of people you can help with RV parks. And there are a lot now RV parks are also recreational, but they're very expensive. Those kind of parks, you go in there, they got the pull throughs. That's where you can pull into the spot one way and then pull out the other side. Those are called pull throughs. And they usually have nice amenities within the park, and they could be $75, $80 a night just to rent the pad. But the parks that I'm referring to for RV parks for affordable housing are much cheaper than that. You can rent the whole pad for $300, $400 a month. That's very affordable for most people. You sell them an RV park, an RV trailer on top of, and you sell or finance it to them for, say, I don't know, $200 a month, seller finance, you get your $15,000 back in. What does that work out to? Five, six, no, actually maybe $400 a month. You can rent out the RV and the land for $900 a month. And they own the they own the RV, and and 400 of that or 350 or whatever it is you charge for that doesn't go away. But once they're done paying you for the RV, you made money on the RV because you bought them at a resale or one of those what they call them, auctions. You can get them for like $8,000-9,000, rehab them for a couple thousand and sell them for 15 to 20. And you sell or finance them to people that can't get loans.
I never thought about it that way. All I always thought was recreational RVs, but now you've mentioned it. There's like working site RVs, residential housing RVs.
There's a niche of buyer. There's a niche for every real estate. It's, you think about it and it's like, oh, there's a whole group of people over there using it completely different. When I first heard of co-living, I'm like, what? Oh, of course, that makes sense. But now the cities, the municipalities are becoming very they're definitely anti Airbnb, and with good reason, I guess, because that's housing that they need for families and not for recreation use. So I kind of get their point, but still, telling people what they can and can't do with their property. I'm kind of on the fence on that. But co-living, and now they're being even more difficult with the co-living thing. Some of the cities are coming up with, you can't have more than, what is it? I think right in Boulder, Colorado. I'm in Colorado right now. They have a rule, no more than 3 unrelated people can live in a house. I'm like, well, there goes co-living. So it's just, and you're seeing more and more of this strict behavior about housing. And I was at this is interesting. I was at I wasn't actually, my agent was at it, was telling me how it went because I had issues with the city of Savannah because they kept complaining there's affordable housing issues. And my issue with the city of Savannah is then stop costing us so much money to rehab these things. Stop limiting the labor force of specialized labor, to make it so expensive to get an electrician in there. Because you think about this, the labor markets work just like every other market. If you've got 5 people that need electrician work done and you've got 1 electrician working in your town, because that's all the city will allow to have a permit, a license to do electrical work in your town. That electrician is going to get all the work and they're going to charge the most. Now let's flip it. You got 1 person that needs electrical work and you got 5 electricians. Well, now you get better bidding. The electricians will bid what they're willing to do it for. And the seller or the person of the property can get a better deal. And that's true. But right now, with most of the licensing rules in Savannah, they allow so many. It's like liquor license even. You can do this with any license that the city or the county or the state imposes, creates a monopoly. And because they limit the number of people that can enter that space, which means you have fewer people to choose from to buy your goods or service from. And electricians and plumbers are making a lot of money because there's very few of them. And it's like they limit the number of licenses they'll issue, or they make it very expensive to get a license, or they create some sort of barrier for people to enter that work. It causes expenses to go up because you're not getting real. I'm a capitalist. I will be a capitalist to the day that I die. But I am not one of those capitalists that's just greedy, want to steal from everyone. But I believe in a functional market where buyers and sellers get together and they can haggle for a fair price. And when the governments get involved and they put these limits in there, and I understand what they're trying to do with minimum wage and price caps and everything else, but they're forcing everything to be traded within a very narrow range, which causes shortages or inflation. So with the affordable housing issue, the cities are really the problem, especially with dragging their feet on getting permits through. New projects can't get started with the months and months and months it takes to get just a simple fix and flip going. Now, sometimes if your contractor is really good at dealing with the city, they can get their permits in just 30 days. And sometimes they can drag their feet if the city wants to, because bureaucracy is bureaucracy at all levels, county, city, state, federal, because they're people that are in charge that weren't elected. And when people are given a little bit of authority, they tend to throw their weight around a little bit. And they take advantage, and they like to say, well, I won't issue a permit because, I don't like you. How you like that? Yeah, it could be like that. And you just had an off day. And next thing you know, you're going to have to jump through hoops to get a permit, where your competition flipper down the street's getting permits. So there's those things you got to deal with the city that cause prices to go higher. They restrict the amount of building they're always very big on, we got to do something about affordable housing. Just don't put them next to my house. That's just
not in my backyard.
It's bothersome. It's kind of like hypocrisy at its worst. And then there's nothing you really do about it, but you just play the game to the best of your ability and you get better with each flip. You do. You learn, you make friends. You try to make good with the county and try to you take them donuts. Yes. Take them donuts. I am telling you, if people think that's BS, it's not. Get to know their name, get to know their kids' names, take those donuts in there. Hey, Marjorie, how's Johnny doing? They had a baseball game this weekend. Did they win? Boom. Marjorie will fast track your permit straight to the office right on top.
Yep. The people
I am
aspect
telling
of
you,
it.
God is my witness.
I haven't done it, but I understand that just the philosophy. I know when I go like just to the restaurant and people ask you, hey, what can I help you? And I ask them, oh, how's your day going? They're like, you're asking me? Because a lot of people don't think of them as a person. They just say, hey, give me my order and let's go. They don't take the time to say thank you or hello, or hope you're having a good day. Just something like that.
Food service
that will
people,
change somebody's perspective. That, they're an employee, they're getting paid to do something, but they still have the human aspect of it. It's a great word of advice with there.
There'd be no restaurants if they weren't there working. So anytime I've ever gone, I'm very appreciative of the wait staff. You know, I always, every time they bring, oh, thank you, you are the best. You know, it's just like, you know, are they the best? I don't know, but right now they're the best.
Yeah, for that moment, for you, yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to let them know, and you know, and you get good service, and good service shouldn't go unrewarded. And I'm a big fan of that. I make sure my subcontractors, my contractor, my agent, they get bonuses if they exceed expectations, and I am cool with that because it makes me more money. And it says, yeah, but it costs you money. You make less. Yeah, but I made less in a less amount of time. It's the same net. And I keep getting that same service from them over and over again to a point where I can rely on it. And they do not want to bite the hand that one feeds them. You know, it's just, I'm their gravy train. They don't want to lose that. They got a good thing. Find me deals. They get paid well. They sell my house. They get paid well. They get my houses built on budget, on time, or ahead of schedule. They get paid well. And I get that over and over again. I cannot preface that enough. To me, take care of you people. I mean, they're not my employees, but subcontractors are about as close as you can get. And they will take care of you. They will do your houses first if they're busy. I have been in that situation where you're haggling, your house goes to the bottom of their list. Instead of a 3-month flip, you're now on a 6-month flip. You better double those holding costs, or you can just pay them a little bit now and save yourself some money in the long run. But anyway, yeah, that's, those are the things. You always take care of your people. And even like you said, you know, in the restaurants and, you know, just say thank you. I say thank you all the time. Even Andrea, who does a lot for me, and it's one of those things where you like to say, start to take it for granted. I say thank you every single time she does anything.
Wonderful.
And a reminder of how awesome she is. And it's always remind people that they're really valuable to you. They will remain loyal to you forever. And, you got to keep making contributions to the emotional piggy bank. Don't take nothing but withdrawals, because if you do, you're going to overdraw that account and you're not going to have a happy partner, wife, relationship with other business partners. Always be the person that's making constant contributions to the emotional big piggy bank. You do that, you will have good people around you, loyal people.
Some words of wisdom there from Mr. Alan Foster. Hey, thank you so much. We're an hour and a half in. I got to bring you on for another one. There's so much knowledge bombs you're dropping here. Please drop a like. Subscribe to the channel. It's free. We'll have hopefully Alan back in a couple of months, and drop a comment. What word of advice would you give somebody that wants to start and being an entrepreneur? Doesn't have to be real estate.
Entrepreneur. Okay. The first thing you got to figure out is if you truly are an entrepreneur. And that's hard because everyone wants to be one, and there's no shame in not being one, because entrepreneurs are a rare breed. They are literally 1% of the population. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you're willing to get up without having been asked to, go do that thing. You're not going to get paid for it. You're not going to make a dime, and you're doing it anyway. You have the potential of being an entrepreneur. You just got to see it through fruition. And if you want to become an entrepreneur, work on yourself first, and don't assume you need money, because Alan's rule of money number 7 is increase your ability to earn. When you become really good at what you do, entrepreneurship will be natural. But if you just decide you're out of high school, maybe young, and you haven't really done anything, and you just had some odd jobs, say, yeah, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. you're not going to get anywhere because you haven't built the discipline of, holding yourself responsible. That's a tough one. Holding yourself responsible. If I don't do something this week that I'm supposed to do this week, I'm responsible for that. I gotta, everything. And here's another thing. No matter what happens, your fault or not, you have to understand you're responsible. It does not matter because nobody is coming to save you. Nobody's going to help you. You'll find people along the way that will help, but they're not going to come save you. It's always what's in it for me. They all tune into the same radio station, WIFM. What's in it for me? And they, like you, want things for themselves. So, if they're going to help you along the way, as an entrepreneur, it's tough. Entrepreneurs, you've got to develop really good operating systems. You can't rest on your laurels. It's every day, no time off. And if you're willing to commit to that, then you're able to do this. It's not like you treat this like a 9 to 5. Like you go, it's Friday, let's go out with my boys, and Saturday night, we got Saturday, let's go get hungover, and get hungover, deal with a hangover, and Sunday too, and it's back to the grind, and it's Monday, get the Monday blues. If you've got the Monday blues, you're not an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are excited to be doing what they do. They love talking about what they do. They will stay on a podcast 30 minutes beyond the 1 hour that was allotted because they like doing what they do. And if you can't do that, you're not really an entrepreneur. And that's not a slam against you. It's just, you understand that there are people that are entrepreneurs. And what an entrepreneur does is they go out and they have an idea. They go out and find the resources to make that idea happen. And they put forth the effort and they build the teams because they know that they can't do everything. They may not be good at finance, but they'll find someone that is. And they may not be good at operations, but they'll find someone that is. And they may not have somebody, they might not even be good at just your day-to-day office management, but they will find someone that is. And they will put those resources together and they will make sure that everyone is moving in the right direction. And that is being an entrepreneur. So being an entrepreneur, you have to decide on day one, am I willing to put forth all that effort and energy and not get anything back, sometimes for years, until I see my end results starting to happen? It might be a few years. It might be 5 years. It could be 10 years. The guy, Ray Kroc, who was basically started the whole McDonald's franchising thing back in the 1950s. That guy was dirt poor, and he was like that. He wasn't until he's in his 50s, until he finally figured out how to make McDonald's profitable. He basically forced the McDonald brothers out of the business, took it over as a corporation, and real estate is how he figured it out. So being an entrepreneur, and the guy, what was his name? Colonel Sanders. The guy, he lived in his car. The Kentucky Fried Chicken guy lived in his car for years, trying to sell his chicken recipe until he finally got it done. That's what an entrepreneur does. That is the sacrifice. You determine what you want, how much you're willing to pay to have it, and then do it. Do not accept failure and do not assume it's the other people's fault. It is always your fault. You have to take responsibility for everything in your business or it will never happen. It could be someone embezzled money from you, stole money from you. I've had that happen. It's my fault. I've had subcontractors, that did half-assed work. It's my fault. They did it, but it's my fault. And that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. If you don't have that mindset, there's nothing wrong with going out and becoming a very well-paid employee, because I used to be a very well-paid employee. I used to sell new homes for builders and I would make over $200,000 a year in the 90s. That was a lot of money in the 90s. So there's nothing wrong with being a worker and there's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur, but you have to make sure that if you're going to be one, make sure that you want to start with, am I willing to do those things before I even start down this road? Because if I don't have, you can start off something simple like this. Give yourself a simple routine that you will do it every day for 30 days. If you fail that mission, you should not be an entrepreneur. And it could be dumb. It could be something so simple as I'm going to go walk around the block every day at 6 a.m. stop on the fourth corner, grab a rock, throw it into the woods until I've completed 30 rocks thrown into the woods. It could be something so simple as that. You do that every single day for 30 days. Then you can prove to yourself, I have the wherewithal and the ability to see things through to the end.
Amazing insight. Going with that, just because you set yourself up to do it today in the next 30 days, if you fail it, you might not be ready today. You can try it again 2 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it takes you to do it. Everybody has their own book, their own timeline. So don't expect to do it today if it doesn't work for you this month.
That's good. That's great advice. It doesn't have to be today. I didn't really step into flipping until I was in my 30s. So, and even then I had a partner, and even then I kind of did it kind of shoddy. I didn't really have systems in place. I was kind of learning as I go. So I wouldn't have called myself an entrepreneur back then. And, so you might not figure it all out until much later. So there's nothing wrong with taking a stab at it, failing. If you fail 50 times, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you quit, then you failed. You don't fail until you
Disney
failed.
Quit. I think Disney failed like 300 times getting a loan.
Yeah.
So now look what Disney's at now.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, it was Thomas Edison. It was famous. It was in the newspaper back in the 1800s. So one of the reporters asked him before he actually did the whole electric light thing. He was asked by a reporter, "You've failed so many times at this. What are you going to do?" He says, "No, I have not failed." Actually, it was a number. It's like 157 failures at an attempt or something like that. And he says, "No, I didn't fail. I just found 157 ways not to make a light bulb." And so, and I thought that was great because eventually he figured it out, and look what we got.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years later.
And then Einstein said something similar. They said, "Einstein, you're like a genius." It's like, I don't think I'm a genius. I just stay with the problem a lot longer than most people.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
So going back, talking about employees, are you looking to add anybody to your team? How can people help you out?
No.
Okay.
Not partners, not at this time.
Not even partners, employees, people to send you deals, money to get lent.
Money is always appreciated because I can do more flips. However, right now, because the market has gotten kind of soft, I'm taking a very cautious approach. If I do a flip, it will be all cash right now. But if things change over the next 18 months to 2 years, I will be back as business as usual. But right now, I am kind of concerned about some of the numbers I'm seeing coming out of Savannah and the U.S. in general. I'm also seeing some shortages, supply shortages. There will be some basic building materials that might be difficult to get. This trade war is is slowly going to turn into a financial war between countries. It's just, you're going to say, well, you don't sell us that, we're not going to sell you this. So you might see shortages of materials needed to build houses. So it could be an inflationary thing, which would be bad, but I don't know that it's going to affect anything because people can't afford things to go much higher as it is. So I don't even know if they'll be willing to pay those higher prices. But as far as what I need, employees, I can't have employees because of a solo 401k. And under the solo 401k rules, you can't have employees. Well, you can, but then you have to contribute money to there. And I'm not really in a position where I can start contributing to other people's retirements. So the solo 401k allows me to take the profits from fixing and flipping and put it into a retirement account for me and Andrea. And that money gets invested into buy and hold projects, which I have control over, and I decide how the money gets invested. It's not held by a custodian. Well, it is, but I decide how it gets used. But it's not in a 401k account with my employer. It's stuck in some mutual fund, and I've got like 4 mutual funds I can choose from, and they all suck. So I have control over it because my company, this corporation that I have, controls the solo 401k, which is the manager of it, and I'm the manager of the 401k, which is Andre and I's retirement account. So all the money that we make goes into that tax-free, and we invest. And there's a whole thing you can do with called backdoor Roth. I got a whole financing game plan for you, man, how to make money off your solo 401k. But that is why I can't hire employees, because if I do that, it violates the solo 401k that we have set up. And I can't do it under another company because the IRS, under the tax laws, they have something called a collective business. You might have 2 companies
Right.
And one company has a solo, the other one has employees. Those employees are technically under the tax code, under the tax court ruling. They're allowed to get access to retirement accounts too. So you have to start providing for them. So what you provide for yourself, you have to provide for them.
Right.
So it can get very expensive because Andre and we pay a lot of money into our retirement accounts, perfectly legal. But if we did that for all our employees, we'd be broke.
Understood. But what about contractors? You can still get contractors or referrals, like bird dogs, people that send you deals. I know you're not doing fix and flip right now, but what about for RVs? Are you looking for anybody to?
Could use maybe someone help me find some RV parks. I'm very focused on seller finance deals. Those are the ones that I think I could do right now in this market because I am concerned about the economy over the next 18 months. So seller finance deals will probably be the smarter play. Cash is very important right now. I think I mentioned that earlier. Cash is very, very important right now. So seller finance deals, RV parks is something I could probably use some help with. If there's some wholesalers out there that know how to structure those, I would certainly use that as a resource. As far as subcontractors goes, my general contractor handles hiring and firing in Savannah. I have a really good agent, so I don't need another agent. I usually use 2 agents. They're both really good. My agent that finds me investment properties, really, really good. So don't need any help there. Financing, maybe. Hard money, private money, something like that. Maybe I could scale up my flipping business. But again, I'm very cautious about taking on more flips right now because I am truly concerned. I have to reevaluate what properties are truly worth now because we're not going to get the valuations that we were getting. So I'm seeing flat numbers, and numbers that have closed about 6 months ago are not relevant anymore. So if you're pulling comps within the last 6 months, just understand those numbers are probably no longer relevant. So you got to find things that have closed in the last 30 days, 60 days to be more relevant. I've seen this before when the economy gets flat. It's very difficult to determine what the value is going to be in 6 months because you're using 6 months ago comps, which it might have been a hot market 6 months ago, and it's not anymore. But if it was like a recessionary market or a declining market 6 months ago and it's flat, it might be a little easier because those numbers 6 months ago will be lower and you can negotiate down from there, but there's a little bit less risk. I will tell you, someone asked me the other day, when's a good time to get into real estate? And the answer is simple. It's always a good time to get into real estate. And here's how I'll explain it to you. If the market is strong, it's good. It's a bull. We'll call it a bull market. We'll call it a seller's market. I use bull market when the market's going up as an options trader. If the market's going up and prices are getting higher, you're not going to get a good price buying, but you get a great price selling. Now, if it's the reverse and prices are going down, declining, a bear market, and you're in what's called a buyer's market, you're going to get a great price buying, but you're going to get a crappy price when you sell it. So it's depending on the market. You're on the good side when you're buying or the bad side when you're buying, and the good side when you're selling or the bad side when you're selling. It just depends on the market. You're never on the good side of both. It's just, you can't be in an uptrending market and get a great price. Well, you could. I mean, if somebody's really desperate to sell their house to you and get a good price for it. And it's not likely that you'll get a crappy price in a declining market and you'll get a crappy price on the selling. It just doesn't happen. It's very rare that would happen. You could. Somebody just stupidly bought something, overpaid for something. Yeah, that's possible you get a crappy price, but it's just not likely. So the real estate market, whether it's trending up or trending down, and you're a fix and flipper, it's always a good time to get in because you'll either make money on the purchase or you make money on the sale, depending on the market's going up or it's going down. If it's going down, you'll make money when you buy it. If it's going up, you'll make money when you sell it. And that's just the way that's how you look at it. And so waiting for the market, I don't know what the market's going to be in 6 months, 6 years, 5 years, 10 years. So when to get in, I don't know. But I can tell you it's always a good time to get in. The absolute best time, the timing, who knows? If you're waiting, if you're going to be a buy and hold long term, you might want to wait till see if rates come down. If we get the next quarter GDP report and the Fed decides to lower rates, you might get better mortgage rates, and that'll get people back in the market. But that'll force prices higher. So, it's a nickel one way and 5 cents the other. So I don't know how to tell you But I've had that asked to me several times. Is it a good time to get in? It's always a good time to get in the market. It just depends on where the market's at and how to play it.
When I tell people about properties, is like, look, when you buy a rental, think about it as a big piggy bank, because you get it. And then even if you paid full price for it, right? If you're able to rent it out in 5 years, people have paid down your loan. So that money's basically a piggy bank, because once you have equity, then, I mean, of course, it's all about the numbers, but eventually you'll be able to pull out that equity as a loan, get that money back, and use it for something else. And who's going to pay that? The tenant, however you're using that real estate. So it's like a big reusable piggy bank if you use it right, you use your numbers correctly, and you buy it at a good price.
That's a good way to look at it. It is a piggy bank.
Yeah.
And remember, don't steal from that piggy bank. That piggy bank is your retirement money. It's, it's Alan's rule of money number 1, pay yourself first. And that money is not to save up for a trip or a new car or buy a house to live in. That money that you're setting aside when you pay yourself first is for future you, when you're too old to do what you do anymore, or your health is starting to decline, or you might have to provide for your family from your untimely calling away to the darkness. So when that day comes, you have to make sure that money is there in place. A lot of times people save money because they're saving for a vacation or they're saving for education. And those are noble things. But paying yourself first, that piggy bank you're talking about, don't ever rob that bank. When that money goes into the piggy bank, it stays there. It has a purpose many, many years from now. Not today, not 5 years from now, not even 10, 30, 40 years from now. And you keep adding to that piggy bank until that piggy bank you're talking about. So don't ever rob it. Leave it in there, let it sit, let it grow, let the rents grow, let this pile of cash stack up. And if you can do it in a retirement account, which I could tell you how to do on another podcast one day, you want to do it in a retirement account and let it all grow tax-free and then live off the rents tax-free for life. Don't even have to worry about depression or depreciation. If it's in your Roth, I've got houses in my Roth. I don't have to deal with depreciation because I don't care.
Right.
It's tax-free money for the rest of my life. I can take it out whenever I want. Don't have to pay tax on it. Don't have to write down the value of the asset to get a tax deduction because there is no taxes. And you do that. You do it like that. Yeah. Pay yourself first and don't rob that piggy bank. Yeah. I'm glad you talked about that. Bringing up the whole piggy bank thing. That is something I can't get across to, most young people these days. They want to rob that piggy bank to self-gratify themselves today. And while I understand, I get it. Yeah. You want to have fun now while you can. There's nothing wrong with having fun later while you can too, and having a lot of fun because you have a shit ton of money.
What a way to end this episode. I love it. Dave, I've heard that pay yourself first, but you added pay yourself first for your future self, your retirement, your piggy bank.
Yeah. Don't ever
amazing.
assume.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. No problem, man. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to me go on about what I do, which, I'm just an average flipper. I'm nobody great. I'm no Pace Morby, but, I have fun what I do. I like being alive. I'm a really good options trader. I'm a good flipper. Very smart about how I do things, but yeah, thanks for having me on. Let me talk. I appreciate it. Hopefully somebody out there is listening.
Oh yeah. We're going to get this cut up and we'll send shorts. So throughout the week, people will find little things and hopefully they'll come see the episode.
That'll be cool. That'll be cool. I would love that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Till the next episode, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Edgar.
Catch this next podcast where you can start your dreams and start to own your time the way these other guests have.